So it has been around 15 years since the launch of Sonic Unleashed, and despite what people may think now, this was once considered to be a bad Sonic game. Now, for a Sonic game to be considered bad, it needs to fit a ton of criteria, because let's be real, the bar for what a good Sonic game isn't that high. Sonic games that are masterpieces in the eyes of fans are just mediocre in the eyes of critics and the general audience. But anyway, Sonic Unleashed. This game was released at a time when the Sonic series was kinda going to shit. At this time, we had the recent releases of Sonic 06 and Sonic and the Secret Rings, which yeah. So to say that expectations were high for Unleashed is an understatement, because from trailers, this game looked good. It seemed to be a complete evolution of Sonic's gameplay, even bringing in elements from the Rush duo of games. This gameplay looked amazing for a Sonic game, and many people agreed that if they got this right, then we could have one of the best Sonic games of all time on our hands. But they just had to f it up. So yeah, Sonic Unleashed is a very controversial Sonic game, because it's just kind of inconsistent, to be honest. The game has very great highs, but then it has many, and I mean many low points. Understandably, this has caused a massive divide when it comes to people's opinions on this game, with some calling it the best Sonic game ever made, to others calling it one of the worst. But despite all of the negativity surrounding this game, I still think it deserves a lot of praise, because what this game does right is truly breathtaking. But yeah, let's just get into it, man. Thank you all for waiting. So before we dive deep into the meat of this game, we gotta address what exactly caused this massive divide when it comes to opinions of Unleashed in the first place. Well, it's undoubtedly due to the two completely different gameplay styles that this game attempts to incorporate. Now, let me make something very clear. Having different gameplay styles in Sonic games tends to be a good thing. Just look at SA1. If you ask me, the contrasting styles in that game offer a nice variety when it comes to gameplay. The same goes for a game like Generations, where the contrasting gameplay styles in that game offer fun gameplay in their own right. But when it comes to Unleashed, one of these gameplay styles simply has way more playtime in the game than the other, and it completely rips out what makes a Sonic game a Sonic game. So yeah, we all know by now that Unleashed is divided into several stages that take place either during the day or during the night, and depending on the time of day, the gameplay style changes as well. Let's just start with the daytime stages. And yeah, I agree with most other people when I say that this is the best part of Unleashed. However, I'm going to take it a step further. I truly believe that the daytime Sonic gameplay in Unleashed is the best gameplay style in the entire series. Why do I think this? Well, it's just fun, man. What Unleashed does is completely reinvent the wheel for 3D Sonic games by introducing the boost formula. Now, we have seen the boost mechanic in many games before Unleashed, including the Rush games, but what Unleashed does is it makes the boost formula completely involved in the level design. This is what makes Sonic feel like Sonic, if you ask me at least. The daytime stages perfectly capture what I believe Sonic's gameplay should be like, because not only does it stand apart completely from other platformers, but it also allows Sonic to feel fast. This new formula allows the level design to be completely reaction time based, but make no mistake, it still includes many platforming elements that you would see in most other Sonic games nowadays. But unlike games like Colors and Generations, I believe that the two aspects of the level design are perfectly mixed. For every boosting segment where you're dodging obstacles, there's a short 2D platforming section. However, what the two share in common is that they never halt your speed. If you take the time to learn the level design, it is possible to just fly through these levels, and it's a f***ing blast. These levels are designed around the concept of replayability, and since the levels are so fun to run through, it encourages you to improve at them. This is the perfect design philosophy when it comes to Sonic games. Now, I do understand some of the criticisms that get thrown at the boost formula. The main one I see is that there are a lot of moments where you're just mindlessly running straight with little to no thought. And yes, there are a lot of moments in Unleashed where you just boost straight forward without any thought, because it's just kind of a flashy thing. However, if you ask me, this is kind of what contributes to the whole idea of it. For one, it gives you a short break before you're required to dodge obstacles or do some platforming, but it also allows you to appreciate the surrounding environments, and it makes you truly acknowledge Sonic's speed and how fast you're running through these levels. But the boost is not the only thing that Sonic has at his disposal. The homing attack also returns in this game, however it has a lock-on reticle this time around for extra assistance when targeting enemies. This is a fantastic addition, for all of the wrong reasons. Later in the game, you unlock the air boost, which allows you to boost mid-air after jumping, but the problem with this is that the homing attack and boost are mapped to the same button, which means that when you're trying to homing attack enemies in a challenging platforming section, then there is a solid chance that you'll just fly off the f***ing stage. I don't know why they decided to map the homing attack to the square button, because it does nothing but create more problems, but at least that slight annoyance was fixed in future titles. Sonic also has the stomp, wall jump, slide, and light dash at his disposal, which honestly don't do much. At most, they slightly enhance the level design by adding some cool shit for your thumbs to do, but they feel kind of unnecessary otherwise. For one, using the stomp in the levels just feels kind of forced, like this one switch and cool edge that you need to stomp to open the door. The light dash and wall jump are mainly used to get secret collectibles and whatnot, but that's it. They aren't really incorporated in the main level design all too much. The level design is also populated with numerous stage gimmicks that are fairly harmless when it comes to how they're incorporated. I mean, come on now, the sledding cool edge is just a classic at this point. And how can we forget the numerous water running segments? I mean, come on, these are great. They just enhance the level design and provide some extra visual flair when running through these levels. But overall, yeah, the boost formula in Unleashed is Sonic at his best in my opinion. And that's the main reason why most mainline Sonic games after Unleashed attempted to evolve the formula in different ways. It was just the perfect fit for Sonic, and it made Unleashed a great game. But we haven't talked about the other half of the game. And this is the main reason why people feel so divided about this game in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the Werehog. So instead of making a masterpiece of a game by including nothing but daytime stages, Sega decided that they absolutely needed a gimmick to sell the game. Now, there were a lot of options for what they could have done with this, but what they decided on is including a laggy generic brawler that takes up 75% of the game. This is the reason why many people understandably don't like Sonic Unleashed. However, I'm going to do my best to explain why I think that the Werehog gameplay is not that bad. I truly believe that it can be loads of fun at times. So the concept of the Werehog gameplay in the nighttime stages is fairly simple. You're put into these long but linear stages that have enemy rooms, puzzles, and platforming within them. As far as the three design aspects go, they're all fairly balanced for the most part, and there are only a few stages where one aspect takes priority over the other. Like Arid Sands Night, for example, it practically has no platforming segments. Instead, it's mainly just endless enemy rooms with a couple of puzzles mixed in. But then we have levels like Jungle Joyride Night, which, if you ask me, is a very fun level because it includes the perfect balance of combat and platforming. I guess we should talk about the actual Werehog gameplay though, and it's easy to see why people don't like it as much as daytime Sonic. For one, Sonic is way slower. The fastest speed you can go as the Werehog, it doesn't even come close to how fast Sonic goes in the adventure games, and definitely not daytime Sonic. While yes, the Werehog's speed is catered perfectly for the level design, the main gimmick of what made this game, and by extension the entire f***ing series, so appealing in the first place was Sonic's speed. The fact that they stripped all of that away and made it take up most of the game's playtime is why this decision baffles me so much. However, the Werehog's platforming is arguably better than daytime Sonic's because of the speed difference and the addition of the Werehog's stretchy arms and double jump. There are many things in the nighttime stages that the Werehog can grab and swing off of. This, at the end of the day, or night, just adds more variation to the Werehog's platforming style, which again, kinda contributes as to why I think the Werehog's platforming is better than regular Sonic's. The puzzle solving aspect is fairly simple, there's nothing too special going on here. Most of the time you're either putting things in other places or pulling levers to open doors, and yeah, that's it. I 100% believe that if the puzzles were more fleshed out and challenging, then the overall level design of the nighttime stages would be much more interesting. Because as it is now, it feels very repetitive. The main reason why it feels so repetitive though is the inclusion of multiple enemy gauntlets. Okay, so the thing with the Werehog is that you need to upgrade a lot of his abilities to make the combat fun. The problem with this is that to gain experience to upgrade your abilities, of course, you have to play the game. So by the time you've upgraded all of the Werehog's abilities, you've been done with the game. The thing with upgrading regular Sonic's abilities is that he is still a load of fun to play, even with level 1 stats. I cannot say the same for the Werehog though. Learning new combos and whatnot with the Werehog as you unlock them is very fun, don't get me wrong. Learning the right combos to execute in certain situations will cause the Werehog gameplay to be fun to master, but to get to that point, you have to spend a lot, and I mean a lot of time grinding with his shitty basic abilities. It also doesn't help that you need to upgrade your shield, health, strength, and unleash gauge too, because enemies will only get more difficult as you progress the game. And unfortunately, the Werehog's combat is just so boring and not very satisfying. All you really have to do is mash buttons, and then you'll be fine. Of course, using your shield and unleash gauge will spice things up, because using those things can make enemy segments easier and quicker to get through as a result, but you don't need to use those things. The high skill ceiling with the Werehog is completely undermined by the fact that the game itself doesn't require you to use different combos to defeat enemies. It also doesn't help that some of these enemies are just god-awful. The bees in particular are very hard to deal damage to. I think what they expect you to do is grab them and slam them on the ground to do damage. The problem with that is that they move way too quickly to grab them in the first place, and then you have the wizards trying to heal them, and then it's just a fucking nightmare. But as I said before, with upgraded stats, defeating enemies is very satisfying. It's like they had a good idea for the Werehog's gameplay, but they locked it behind progression. Upgrading the Werehog's health and all of that shit is whatever, but I truly feel like they should have given us all of his abilities from the start. That would have made him much more appealing to people who just started the game. But as it is now, the Werehog is still decently fun to me, but that's just a result of my experience with this game. For someone's first time playing Unleashed, it's more than understandable why the Werehog would make them want to stop playing. And unfortunately, it didn't have to be this way, because with a few changes, the Werehog could have been a nice and welcome change of pace. But Unleashed is way more than the two Sonics. One of the main reasons why I love this game so much is the variety of environments you visit. This game is called World Adventure in Japan for a reason. You travel the world and visit locations that take inspiration from places in real life. You start in Apatos, which is inspired by the architecture you would see in Greece. And then we have Spagonia, which resembles Italy. We also have Missouri, which is based on Africa. Then we have Alaska, which is based on more snowy regions in the Arctic. Shunan is one of my favorite stages in this game because the scenery is breathtaking. I mean, come on, you run on the Great Wall of China in the daytime stage. That's awesome. Then we have Shamar, which is based on Middle Eastern territories, and well, yeah, I'm not really a fan of this one. The music is fucking amazing though, and we'll talk about that later. My favorite level in this game has to be Jungle Joyride Act 1, which takes place in Adabat and is inspired by places located in Southeast Asia. The reason why I like this one the most is that it not only houses the two best levels in the game, but the scenery is also beautiful, to the point where it makes my console damn near explode. Overall, the variety of locations in Unleashed gives it so much personality. These aren't necessarily locations you would see in your everyday Sonic game, and that's what makes Unleashed so unique. It takes locations that wouldn't normally fit in a Sonic game and Sonic-ifies them, but as a result, they created some of the most eye-catching and unique environments in the entire franchise. And there's also way more to do in these locations besides playing levels. Each location houses a hub world where you can do a multitude of things. Simply talking to the residents of these locations can unlock different side quests that have their rewards. You can also buy souvenirs and food items from the shop, which can increase your XP. While the hub worlds aren't anything too special, they offer a little more connection with the locations and the people who live there. It's kind of fun learning about the different people who live in these different areas and helping them with whatever they want you to do. It's all optional side content, but its inclusion in the first place is part of what shows the passion behind this game. From the hub worlds, you can access the entrance stages, which is where you enter the different levels. However, with enough sun or moon medals, you can also access extra acts that aren't required for the story. But if you need to collect some more medals, then these are a viable option to do so. Speaking of medal collecting, that is one of the main complaints with the progression of this game. To unlock new levels in this game, you have to increase your daytime or nighttime level, which is done by collecting sun and moon medals that are spread within the stages. The problem with this is that to unlock everything you need to unlock to beat the game, you will inevitably need to go out of your way to search for medals within the stages. This is what I like to call forced replayability, which in a Sonic game is not good. Yes, replaying stages to unlock secrets is whatever, but this is required to progress the main story. By the time you reach Adabat, you need to have at least 120 sun medals, and just to to put into perspective how absurd that is, there are a total of 10 in each nighttime stage, 3 in each daytime stage, and 2 or 4 in each hub world depending on the location. This means that without knowledge of this existing in the first place, you will inevitably have to backtrack to previous stages to collect the medals you missed. Now, after you learn the locations of many of the medals, then this isn't a big deal, but if you're on your first playthrough, this is such a shocker. You get so close to beating the game and playing the final daytime stage, but you're blocked from doing so because you don't have enough medals. It's just not fun, man. So if this game ever gets ported or remastered, then they should remove the whole medal bullshit, or at least have an option to do so. There are also these Tails Tornado segments that show up now and again. I mean, these are fine and pretty fun at times. I like the little quick time events spread throughout this game, and these mini games are nothing but that pretty much. The boss fights in this game are pretty good though. Unfortunately, all of the daytime boss fights feel pretty samey though. All of them require you to just boost straight and dodge Eggman's attacks, and when the opening is revealed, then you boost into it to deal damage. I don't know why they couldn't change it up, because all of the Werehog's boss fights feel very unique from one another. They all require you to use different mechanics to reveal the weak point. In the Trunon fight, for example, you have these water barrels that you have to throw at the dragon to extinguish the fire, and then you can deal damage. In the Shamar fight, you have to push these boxes onto the conveyor to deal damage while keeping enemies away. It's just stuff like that that makes the Werehog fights very innovative, while the Sonic fights all have the same premise. It isn't anything unplayable though, it just feels kinda repetitive. Do you know what this game also has? The best soundtrack in franchise history. The composers had the freedom to go all out with this soundtrack, and they delivered. It's very orchestral, but at the same time, it incorporates many distinct music genres. Because of the different locations present in the game, each of them has a unique music genre associated with them. This allows Unleashed soundtrack to have a ton of variety, but it still has that Sonic feel to it. It's just amazing stuff, man. The main vocal theme, Endless Possibility, is also by far my favorite vocal theme in the entire series, because it's both catchy and representative of the entire world adventure theme of this game. But along with having the best soundtrack in the entire series, Unleashed has one of, if not the best story in the entire franchise. This story is cinematic, emotional, and just f***ing good. It starts with an absolutely beautiful cutscene of Sonic ambushing Eggman in space. This is undoubtedly the best opening in Sonic history. This one cutscene perfectly sets the tone for the rest of the game. It's just so well animated, and it's just eye candy. But this whole thing from the start was a trap, as Eggman ultimately wanted to use the Chaos Emeralds to unleash Dark Gaia, which is the main villain of this game. But in the process, Sonic absorbed a lot of Dark Gaia's energy, turning him into the Werehog. So with the world split apart, Sonic falls to the surface and finds Chip, who is this thing that lost his memory. So Chip and Sonic are set on an adventure to put the world back together by placing the Chaos Emeralds in the 7 temples, while trying to restore Chip's memory. While the base plot is pretty generic, it perfectly fits with the actual game. Throughout the game, we learn more about why Dark Gaia exists, and we even eventually discover that, spoiler alert, Chip is Light Gaia, and it's his job to reseal Dark Gaia in the Earth's core. So after discovering this, we get to the final temple, which lies in Eggman Land. And this is by far one of the greatest but most challenging levels in the entire series. This level is a massive gauntlet that is a true test of skill. The level also switches between the Werehog and Sonic on the fly, which is something that I wish more levels did. This level on your first playthrough may take you well over 45 minutes, but for me, I can do it in a little over 10 minutes because I've played this game multiple times, but I still love Eggman Land, and it is quite literally the perfect final level. But after you get through Eggman Land and restore the world, Eggman attempts to f***ing kill you by fighting you at the Earth's core. Yeah, I'm not even joking. But after defeating Eggman, things go to shit quickly as Dark Gaia absorbs all the energy that made Sonic the Werehog. But hope is not lost yet, because Chip combines all of the temples to form the Gaia Colossus, and with the help of Sonic, they take down Dark Gaia. This is an amazing final boss, but controlling the Gaia Colossus is very clunky. But of course, that's not the true final boss. After Dark Gaia turns into Perfect Dark Gaia, Sonic uses the Chaos Emeralds, and with the help of Chip, he defeats Perfect Dark Gaia once and for all. Now, this fight is very climactic and cool. However, all you have to do is destroy his shield and do some quick time events. The spectacle is there, but I wish the boss fight included a segment where we actually fought Dark Gaia. But anyway, once we defeat him, Chip gets sealed away in the Earth's core and sends Sonic back to the surface. But Chip leaves his necklace as a reminder that he will always be at Sonic's side no matter what.
I'll be here by you, always. A part of the earth you tread.
And that is the end of Sonic Unleashed. This ending is absolutely beautiful, man, and it brings everything full circle. When you see those credits roll, you truly take in everything you experienced throughout your playthrough. This game just feels so complete, if you get what I mean. And honestly, it's the last Sonic game that truly felt that way for me. Unleashed had a very emotional and climactic ending that damn near made me cry when I first saw it, but it's perfect for the entirety of this game. While yes, Sonic Unleashed gameplay has its highs and lows, the experience as a whole is something that should be praised. In my eyes, it is one of the best 3D Sonic games despite its flaws. Out of any Sonic game they ever released, I feel like Unleashed was the most ambitious. Even today, you can tell that it was way ahead of its time in terms of design. But overall, Unleashed's fun gameplay combined with its jaw-dropping environments and cinematic story makes the game a solid 9 out of 10. I highly recommend this game to any Sonic fan who hasn't played it, because in my eyes, this is truly a masterpiece. But that's going to end my Sonic Unleashed review, everyone. Let me know what you think about this game in the comments down below. But thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.